Welcome to DPS 101. This is the podcast where we introduce you to the leaders in Denver Public Schools and take you behind the curtain into how the largest district in the state operates. I'm Nicole Brady, Communications and Community Engagement Manager, and my guest for today is Dr. Adella Arredondo. Thank you so much for being here, Adella. She is the Executive Director of the Family and Community Engagement Department in DPS. It's great to have you for the final DPS 101 of this school year.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to share more about our department, also known as FACE.
Yes.
That's always how folks know us, is FACE. When we say family and community engagement, a lot of folks don't know, but they know FACE. So happy to chat more about that. Thank you for the opportunity.
One of the goals of the DPS 101 community course is to let the community get to know the leaders in DPS and to learn a little bit about leadership. So Adella, start us off just with a little bit of background and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I will say first and foremost, I'm a Denver Public Schools alumni. I graduated from North High School. I won't say when, but it was a while ago. And I'm also a proud DPS parent. So I think that's where my journey essentially begins. First as a student of Denver Public Schools, proud graduate of North High School. Go Vikings. And I started my career at the City and County of Denver working for Head Start. And so Head Start, if any of you know Head Start, it's the most comprehensive early childhood program that exists that really, I think, prepares students to enter school with the skills that are needed so that they're successful with peers who have access to an early childhood education. I'm also a Head Start alumni, so that's a beautiful full circle moment for me. And Head Start really trained me well on what it means to engage and partner with families. And I fell in love with that work. And so I can say I've been a family engagement researcher and practitioner for the past almost 20 years.
We really appreciate you bringing that experience to DPS, of course. FACE operates on a set of core beliefs, Adella, that I'd love if you'd share those with us because I think it really is the reason for your department's existence in DPS.
Yeah, thank you. I think those core beliefs are critical to the work that we do and are really our guiding principles. And at the core, I'll summarize this by really saying that we believe that partners in education are our families, that they should have a seat at the table, that they are also parents want and have the desire to be involved in their students' education. And oftentimes it's up to us as the district system, but also our schools, our classrooms, to really make space for our families to be part of that education system. And so oftentimes maybe our families are new to the country or new to the culture or new to the education system in the U.S. And it's up to us to help our families understand their role in these cases or open the door for them to be part of that education, to be co-creators of the learning experience, because there's so much learning that happens at home. Parents are, in my opinion, the first and most influential teacher for their children. So there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of wealth and resource when we partner with our families as co-educators in our students' journeys.
Absolutely. And I think I've seen this on some FACE literature. There's a difference between family involvement and family engagement. The FACE team takes it to that engagement level a step further than just involvement. Explain what that means.
Yeah, so family involvement is really what I see as the precursor to engagement. So family involvement is where we're really inviting families to come to our school events. Maybe this is like a gathering for families. Maybe this is a back to school night sometimes. This is an existing event, right? And so these are maybe low impact strategies that we do. And we tend to quantify those as like events, the number of events we had or the number of participants at each of those events. But when we truly want to engage families and make a difference in what truly matters, which is our students, we have to partner with our families where that engagement is tied to student achievement, right? And so that is making small pivots in the existing work that we do, right? We don't want to discredit involvement because it's important and it's needed. It's the precursor, right? I would say involvement is like thinking of like the relationship building, the trust that you're establishing. And that is essential so that you can now engage families. But when we think about our engagement is more like Are parents leaving with the resources to support their students learning at home? Are parents understanding how their students are doing and what that means and what tools exist to support their learning, right? So oftentimes this can be a parent-teacher conference where a parent will learn where their student is at reading levels and what they can do to support at home. Or it can be an actual back-to-school night that is truly tied to the academics and the supports that are needed to help that student be successful, right? It's that partnership between our teachers, our schools, and our families working together to support student achievement.
Well, let's stick with the family part of family and community engagement because DPS, has almost 90,000 students. That means it's many more family members out there. FACE connects with them in so many ways. You have a couple of teams, different departments within FACE that are devoted to family connections. Can we talk about some of those?
Yeah. So there's a multitude of teams in multitude of ways, I would say, that we partner and support families. And so I'll start off with just one off the top of my head that I want every family to know about, and that's our Family Constituency Services team. So one of the things that they do is they operate as a helpline for our families. And so any call that they have, any question, and I would say not just for our families, but really the broader community. I will tell you, recently we had a call from somebody who was calling from New York because they saw a helpline for families and they called. And of course, our team helped them find the right person in New York in their school district to get connected with. But essentially,
that's amazing, though. Yeah,
it was really cool to say like, oh, we know your superintendent. So they called Denver, but we connected them back to that resource. And that's essentially what they do is they take calls from our families, from our community, and answer questions related to our Denver public school system, or they connect them to the right source. So they may be a family who is, at the border of Aurora and Denver, and they may connect them to the right resource in Aurora. But they're available to help our families navigate the complexity of what our education system can be, right? So this may be like, hey, how do I get in touch with transportation? Or I'm needing some support in navigating a challenge at my school, and I don't know who to ask for help, right? Our team is there to connect with families and to help them navigate our education system because we believe that parents are they're advocates for their students. And so how do we support them in navigating this system as they support their students' learning as well? So that's our Family Constituency Service teams, our Family Constituency Services team.
Another team I think is great to highlight is the team that does the home visits, which I think is so interesting. DPS has people who will actually make that connection in the student and in the family's home. Is that right?
Yes. So that is another program that we are incredibly proud of. In fact, a couple years ago, we were a national awardee for the most home visits that take place. And as I was mentioning to you, like family involvement, right, requires that trust building, relationship building. And home visits really create that opportunity for that magical moment to happen. And so we lead the parent-teacher home visit in FACE, and that program allows us to train educators across the district on how to conduct home visits in a safe manner, in a manner that honors the cultural values and the language of our families, but also to conduct those visits through an equity and non-biased lens. And so we facilitate that training and monitor the home visits that happen across the district. And I want to say, as somebody who has experienced homelessness, a home visit doesn't have to happen in the home. And that's the beautiful part about this, right? Is that we have to recognize that our families are very diverse. Our families are navigating sometimes a lot. And so our home visits can take place at a park. They can be virtual. They can take place at a library, or they can take a place in the family's home. But what truly happens in a home visit is this magical moment, in my opinion, where you see I get chills thinking about it, where families just embrace educators and educators embrace families in a new way, because we're meeting families where they're truly at, right? At the core of what's at the heart for them, right? Which is sometimes their home. It's the space that is most special or important for them in their current moments of their life.
And to your point, you mentioned earlier, a lot of this is about academic success for the students. The Family School Community Partnership Team, also another important part of the family engagement side of FACE.
Yeah, that's a critical team because a lot of their work focuses on building the capacity of our families, but also building the capacity of our educators, right? And so there's this this notion that when we help our families understand the importance of family engagement, support them in embracing that as an opportunity, and vice versa, working with our schools to embrace that opportunity, right? We can truly support the partnership happening between our educators and our schools. And so what our family and community partnerships teams does is they work both with families and they work with educators and with schools to build the capacity to create these opportunities. Additionally, we have a Title I team that's part of that Family School Community Partnerships team that works directly at our Title I schools, bringing additional workshops for families. So this may be on social emotional learning, academics, helping families understand maybe the importance of literacy or how to prepare for college. What is the after school or summer programming that are available, right? All of these with the core of, again, how do we connect all of this work back to the academics? Because that's where we want our students to be successful. But parents are a key partner in that work, or parents or families, I should say, are a key partner in that work.
Yeah. Then we also have the community aspect of family and community engagement. And so really, if you think about it, there are many people in Denver. They may not be a DPS parent or a family of a student, but they may still have an interest in the public school system. And the accountability committees are a part of that, the DAC, the CSCs at schools. Can we talk a little bit about that part of community engagement?
Yeah. So community engagement is critical, right? I think our schools are an essential component of every community. And we should all care about what happens in schools, whether we have children or not. We are all taxpayers and want to make sure that our schools are a source of connection and a beautiful space and an environment of learning in our communities. And so the community engagement aspect of this work is critical as well to our function and phase. So we have the District Advisory Council Committee, District Advisory Committee.
Thank you for saying it. I said DAC, and I'm not supposed to use acronyms. Thank you.
Yeah, so the District Advisory Committee works very closely to advise the board on decision-making, on initiatives, on policies that affect our students. And so that group is a mighty group that is made up of many community members, of parents, of educators coming together and really making recommendations to our school board and our district. And then at the school level, there's the collaborative school committees, also known as CSCs. And so these collaborative school committees bring together parents from our schools and then also community members and staff members from the school. They get to take part in advising the school leader on the functions of the school, on things that are happening within that school community, and provide maybe ideas and suggestions to the school leader. And so that's another beautiful way to get involved. And even if you don't have children in Denver Public Schools, you want to get involved in what's happening in your neighborhood school because, again, they're part of your community.
Yeah, I mean, I was recently helping to facilitate a series of meetings on the MLO, the mill levy override, some community meetings. Every single one of those meetings, a member of FACE was there because a lot of people from all around the community show up to these, and FACE is there to support them.
Yeah. And I think we all, at the end of the day, right, regardless of whether we have children or not, I remember when I didn't have children, I would drive by a school and just like the beautiful feeling of driving by a school, seeing a beautiful school, like the playground. Sometimes you hear the kids laughing and playing on the playground. Like that's a beautiful feeling that we all should care about, regardless of whether we have kids or not. And ultimately, our tax benefits are going to supporting our schools. So why not get involved?
Absolutely. Well, a lot of people do like to volunteer in schools. It's a very popular way to give back to the community. And FACE has a team that facilitates volunteer work as well. Is that right?
Yes. So I wish it was a team, but it's actually one individual who leads that work, and she's incredible. So The volunteer management system in Denver Public Schools is very large because we have volunteers all over our schools. So we have folks who are coming in to read in classrooms, provide support at lunch and recess duty. So there are many opportunities for our families to be involved, for our community members to be involved. We also have programs like Spellbinders, where these are retired citizens from our community who are coming in and doing storytelling with our students and helping, again, right? The focus is on our students, helping to increase our academic our students' literacy proficiency in classrooms. And students look forward to this, right? Students are so excited for when that Spellbinder volunteer is coming into classrooms. In addition to those external volunteer groups, we also have an internal volunteer program for our district employees to go out and be volunteers in our schools. And that's a beautiful way to connect what's happening in the district with what's happening in schools. So we go out to schools, maybe cover recess duty or support with lunch duty, because it's again a reminder of why we do the great work that we're here to do is for our students.
The recent effort, the teacher tag-in during Teacher Appreciation Week, saw many employees from central office visit schools and allow teachers that day to have a party or take a break, whatever they wanted to do. And that was really fun, I think, for those of us from Central that got to go to a school.
Yeah, they very much felt a sense of appreciation. I remember teachers walking up and saying, "This was so great. I got to have lunch with my colleagues," which I never get to have, right? Because there's such large teams, or, you're covering recess duty while I'm covering lunch. And so we don't get to hang out and talk much. So it was beautiful. Over 180 central office volunteers in schools that day. That
Wonderful.
Was amazing. Yeah.
I can't believe that one person covers volunteer services, although before we started taping, you mentioned that FACE is a department of many small teams, small but mighty. I wanted to talk about the community hubs. What an amazing team that is, because this is a way that families very much directly engage in schools. Talk about the hubs, where they're at. When did those even start and why?
Yeah. So the community hubs, as you said, they're amazing. I think of our community hubs for the broader context of this conversation and as resource centers for our Denver Public Schools families and our DPS community. And so community hubs officially launched in 2022. And they really began after Dr. Marrero's listening tour in community, where when he arrived in Denver, part of what he did is go out and talk to community, conduct listening tours. And this was something that community asked for, right? Is that they're asking for wraparound supports and holistic supports for our students and our families, because we know, and some of us who have lived experiences, we know how important it is that our students have not just what they need to learn academically, but oftentimes we have invisible baggage that we bring with us, right? And it's what's happening outside of our classroom walls. Do students have access to the resources that they need? Do they have food at home? Do they have their lights on? And that's the beauty of community hubs, is that we provide that holistic support where we provide wraparound services. So we have 6 community hubs across the district. We try to think of having one in every region of the school district, although Denver is a very large city. So we're doing the best, but we have one in every region of the district. They're actually operating inside of our schools. So if you haven't been to a community hub, I want to encourage you to go and visit one, because what we do is we take an empty classroom and convert it into a resource center, right? And within those, they have food markets, they have clothing boutiques. You get to meet one-on-one with a specialist who will listen to our families, understand what they're navigating, what supports they're needing, and be a connector to those resources. So our community hubs, not just offering those resources, but really are places of connection for many of our families, especially new to country families who are new to Denver, who are navigating the U.S. education system that can be at times very scary and complex. They have a network of support. And in addition to that network of support, they get to participate in adult learning opportunities. So there's many family-facing workshops that are like, social emotional learning, different components of supporting students in their academic journey. We have adult classes like ESL, GED. We actually have a GED graduation coming up very soon, and we have one every year.
That's
because
wonderful.
We have parents who are completing their GED. And what's beautiful about this that I get to hear firsthand from our families is that many of them say, Adela, since I started taking classes, my students see that I'm at the table, that I'm studying, that I'm learning. And they say, Mom, if you're studying and learning, I can do it too. And you see a bigger sense of motivation and appreciation for their education that students are taking because they see their parents learning. And so I'm really excited for our graduation coming up very soon because I'm excited for that spark that comes from seeing your parent graduate and reach an educational milestone that fills students up with like, that's the motivation that I need to continue my education and to be a good student. So really excited about our community hubs and all of the services that they do. I could be here all day talking about
that.
Yes, all day, because there's so much that happens in community hubs. So I really want to encourage folks to go out and visit one of them.
Yeah, I would say the same. I have been to a couple, but the one that stands out in my head is the Far Northeast Community Hub. Remind me the school again that one's at?
That one's at John M. S.
John M. S., yes. And I mean, you walk in and it's a full service center. I mean, there were people just so busy and active, taking calls, meeting with families right there, a store where you can go shop for food, clothing support as well. Then in the other room, there was a class going on. I believe an ESL class was happening. It's really incredible to see that. But I love your point about students seeing their parents and families engaged in their schools and how much of a difference that can make for a student to see their parent, whether it's learning or just interacting with the school.
Yeah.
And that's what your team, I guess, is all about, right? Is getting the families into our schools.
Yeah. Because we believe they're true partners in this journey, right? And I think the other beautiful piece is we also provide internship opportunities for our high school students at our community hubs.
Oh, yeah.
So again, it's bringing in our youth to see the beauty of community hubs and to give back to the community in another way. So really excited about that new offering that we're starting this year as well.
That's awesome. And yes, actually, you can take donations to community hubs as well, right?
Yes.
So if you're interested in a place to donate, some clothing, anything like that.
Yep. Donations. We take volunteers. We have our citizenship classes. And so one of the things that we do is bring in volunteers to do mock interviews. And so that program has been incredibly successful. And you might be wondering, like, well, why do we do all of these resources and services? And our belief and faith is that when we support our families, when our families are doing well, our students are doing well, right? Because the student is a direct recipient of what the family is experiencing. And so we often hear families who will say, like, when I started coming to community hubs, I would avoid going to parent-teacher conferences or going to my child's school because I wasn't comfortable because I don't speak English.
Yeah.
And now you see families who are saying, like, I am there, I am present, I got to participate. You see their face light up because they feel the confidence to show up at a parent-teacher conference, to email their school, because they're gaining the confidence and the skills by learning English or by advancing in their education journeys as well.
Well, I think it's innovative, but yet it makes so much sense that you would want to make sure that what's happening in a family is part of that student's experience and that you're addressing that in a school system. I mean, I mentioned at the beginning that I see a FACE team member or a table set up with the FACE logo at almost every event I go to. You guys make it very easy for people to engage. I'm guessing your team puts in a lot of after school hours. Is that right?
Yeah. This is a joke that I have in my home, is that family engagement does not happen from the hours of 9 to 5, right? Oftentimes it's a lot of evenings, a lot of weekends. And if I were to go to every event that we have in our department, I mean, I'd be working all the time because we have pretty much an evening gathering for families almost every single day on the weekends. And so, but that's part of family engagement. It's about meeting families where they're at and making opportunities accessible during a time that is convenient for families. And we recognize that's also changing too, because Nicole, the reality of it is that our families are much more diverse. The complexities that folks are navigating, like we don't have traditional hours. I would say like the nuclear family, right? Our families are so diverse. And so family engagement happens all the time, anytime.
Do you guys do anything over the summer then too? You still are doing events?
Not as many. We're actually planning our back to school drive. So our back to school supply event. Yeah.
So that's the big one.
That's the big one. So right now we're ordering all of the supplies, shipping them. This year we're having a different model where instead of last year we learned a lesson. There was long lines at schools. And so it was very hot and it was a lot of work. So this year we're having a shopping experience at community hubs where we'll set up a room that normally maybe has groceries, and we'll set it up with the school supplies so that students and families can have that shopping experience.
Awesome. I love that.
I'm super excited about that.
Well, thank you, Adella Arredondo, Dr. Adella Arredondo, for being here today to talk about FACE. We know students perform better when their families are engaged in their education, when the entire community supports them. So find a way to get involved. And just like that person in New York did, if you Google family engagement, hopefully Denver is what comes up, and Denver Public Schools. Thank you so much for listening today. You can learn more about other departments in DPS in our previous DPS 101 conversations on the DPS podcast site, wherever you stream. And have a great summer.